Today I wanted to introduce you to a little bit of orienteering. It's a really fun skill that goes hand in hand with scouting. But first we need to know kind of how to use a compass. So this is going to kind of teach you the different parts of a compass and some basics of compass use. Now before we begin, we need to talk about safety. We always want to make sure we stay safe. So the first rule is we are always going to have a buddy with us when we are orienteering. All orienteering is outside. Very easy to get lost in the woods when you're orienteering, so you always want to have a buddy. We're Cub Scouts. That's kind of the rule with any activity we do. We always have a buddy. Second rule, we always take our 6 essentials. So that's our flashlight, our water, our first aid, our snack, our whistle, our sun and rain protection. Always want to take that with us because we never know what kind of the weather outside is going to do, or if we get hurt or anything like that. This is the same thing as hiking, more or less, just hiking with a purpose, okay, or a slightly different purpose. So always take our 6 essentials. And actually, so for Cub Scouts, there's 6 essentials. When we move into Scouting BSA, there's 10 essentials, and the compass and map are one of those 10 essentials, or 2 of those 10 essentials, because a compass without a map is not very useful unless you're just doing some basic compass games in a field, and there's a lot of those fun games to practice. But for the most part, we're going to be out in the woods, so we need our compass and we need a map of the area. The third rule is that we are always going to be aware of our surroundings. We need to make sure we are staying safe. We don't want to follow that compass blindly. I think it is Harry Potter says, don't trust something if you can't see where its brain is. Compass doesn't have a brain. You are that brain. So we want to make sure that even though our compass is telling us to walk in a certain direction, that we're looking at that certain direction and we're making sure that there's no obstacles in the way that may be unsafe. There could be cliffs, there could be rivers, there could be wild animals, whatever. We need to be aware and looking, and we need to be keeping track of kind of where we are because, again, we don't want to get lost. So aware of our surroundings, making sure we know what we're doing, okay? So those are our basics about rules about staying safe. Now let's learn more about the compass. For our compass, you're going to need a mid-range compass. These run about $9, $10. Don't buy the expensive one at REI that has the nice mirror and all the fancy features. You don't want that. You want mid-range, Fred Meyer in the camping section type of deal, $9. Also, don't buy the ones that are really cheap. They're designed to be like jacket poles or attached to your flashlight. They're not very accurate. They won't work for orienteering. We want a basic compass, has our degrees on it, that's fairly accurate with an arrow, all that stuff. Also, phone apps, not very accurate, so I don't recommend you trying orienteering with phone app. You need to buy the compass. And honestly, like I said before, this is one of your 10 essentials when you get to Scouts. You're going to need this until you're all the way through your scouting program, and that's when you're like 18. So buy a compass. You're probably going to lose it. Don't worry, everybody does, but $9, good trusty compass. Okay, so let's talk about the various parts of the compass. You already know the first part, and that's that red needle there. You already knew that. I bet you know where it's pointing. That's right, it's pointing to north. Okay, it's pointing to magnetic north. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but it's pointing north. Okay, the second thing is this arrow right here, and this is our direction of travel. So where that's pointing is where we're going to want to walk when we're eventually ready to do orienteering. It's a nice straight line right down the center of the compass that I can put my eye right here and look straight across and follow that arrow and see where I need to go. Okay? 3 and 4 is right here, is this dial, okay? And this is the rotating bezel. It has all our degree lines on it. It has 360 degrees going around it because it's a circle. It says north. It doesn't actually tell us where north is, but it's going to help us to dial in north in a minute, okay, when we teach that. Right underneath is the third thing. I said 3 and 4. There's a white line right under here, and I don't think you can see it in the video, but if you spin the dial on your compass, you'll notice there's a white line that stays in place and is oriented to our direction of travel, and that's going to help you to accurately read the degrees on this compass when we spin this around. Okay, and the fifth thing, the last thing that we really need to know is our arrow, our orienting arrow. And this is often referred to as the shed because look, it looks like a cute little house, okay? So, we're going to refer to this, and you're going to hear us say this a lot in orienteering. You want to put the red, that's the north facing needle, in the shed, okay? So when I say put the red in the shed, either we're turning the compass to put that needle right in its cozy little home, or alternatively, we may be turning the dial, depending on how we're using this compass at that moment, to get the red in the shed, okay? So you need to kind of know that. I lied, there's one more thing, and that is the base plate. And it's really important that your base plate have a nice straight line on it that you can use as a ruler. You will be wanting to draw on maps, and this is a great way to draw a straight line. It also almost always has a ruler on it, and that's because you need to know kind of how far point A is to point B, so then you can look on the scale of the map and figure out how far you need to go, because 1 inch might equal a mile, or 1 centimeter might equal a quarter mile. It depends on the map, but you're going to need to measure. So these always have a ruler on them and a nice straight edge, okay? And they're clear, so when we put them on the map, we can see what's underneath and still read that map. Okay, now let's talk about how to use our compass a little bit. Now, first of all, this is a water-filled compass, so just like everything in the water, it's floating. The needle is floating, right? But here's the problem. If I rotate this, if I'm moving this around, one end of the compass, or the needle, is going to drag. Either that head or that tail is going to drag on the plastic housing. It's sandwiched 2 sheets of plastic in between there, and it's just not going to float properly, and it's not going to give us an accurate reading. So no matter what we're doing, we want this compass to be level. Now, whether I'm putting on my hand and I'm trying to estimate and hold it as level as possible, and you can kind of observe and note, hey, it's not dragging, we're probably good. I might put it on the ground for a really accurate reading if I can find a level spot. It's up to you, but we want to make sure that we're noticing whether this is dragging. Okay, so if I want to go north, if I'm told I need to walk north, first of all, I'm going to set up my rotating bezel so that the north, that is 360 degrees, is right on that direction of travel. That white line's right underneath, okay? So, then we're going to put the red in the shed. And because I've already rotated this rotating bezel, I'm going to actually rotate the compass. Now, red's in the shed. So if I actually want to go north, I want to walk right across that arrow. Right over there, okay? If I'm told I need to go to, say, 40 degrees. Okay, I'm going to put 40 degrees right underneath that direction of travel. And again, I'm going to rotate that compass until the red is in the shed. Well, now I need to head that direction. Okay, and I'd put my eye right here, and I'd look down kind of the body of the compass and notice where that arrow is pointing. And then I'd make sure that I kind of took a notice of what was around that area as far as I could see. For instance, it might be an interesting tree that I can memorize that I need to walk towards that tree. It might be an interesting rock, something like that to help me to keep on that bearing as I'm walking. Okay? Now, the other way we can use this compass is to find ourselves. If I can locate a mountain, let's say this is pointing right at Mount Rainier. We've got Mount Rainier. It's right here. I can point to the top. Now I put red in the shed. Well, Mount Rainier is just before 300 degrees for where I am. So then I can use this and transfer this to a map and help me find where I am if I'm lost. So I can find what degrees important points are if I can figure out which important points they are on the map. So that's something that's a little more advanced that you're probably not going to use right now, but those are the 2 ways you're going to turn that red in the shed, okay? Really easy, really fun. Now, the one thing you need to know about your compass is that it doesn't actually point to the true north, what we'd consider the North Pole. This is kind of how the Earth rotates around. Thing is, compasses are magnetic, so if you imagine all these kind of waves, almost like ocean tides, kind of invisible all around the Earth, they control where the compass points. So it's going to be slightly off from the true north, and that's called declination. So the true compass, or a compass, actually points kind of over here, kind of to the side of the North Pole. So we need to know that we have to account for that in some cases. Okay? So in Seattle, it's about 17 degrees that we are off from true north. Okay? So if we pair up our maps, which by the way, a compass is not very useful unless we have a map, because we need to know where we're going. Okay? I apologize, this topo map is kind of hard to see on this camera, but it's a topo map of Mount Rainier, and actually right down here is this symbol. It's a straight line with a star, and then another line that forms an angle with an arrow, and it says 21.5 degrees. So for this topo map, I would need to adjust my compass by 21.5 degrees to take into account that declination. Now for what you guys are going to be doing, you guys are going to be doing some orienteering. Now here's the really cool part. We have the Cascade Orienteering Club up here. They generate all these maps and have all these different courses in different parks around here. They have already done declination for you. The symbol means that they've accounted for degrees of declination. They're going to tell you what it is. But if you orient your compass, and you can barely see, if you have a copy of this, you can see it, these blue lines, if I orient my map on those, we're going to be accurate. We don't have to worry about that 17 degrees, because if we have 17 degrees, it's not that much. Right here, it's not that much, but as we get further and further away, the distance separating those two lines is going to get greater and greater and greater. If we're looking for a particular point on the map, and we're going, say, 500 yards out, by the time we get to the end of the 500 yards, we could be 20, 30, 40 feet from where we were supposed to be. So we need to know if we need to account for that. This one accounts for it. This one as well, I think you can see slightly better these blue line arrows. If I orient my map with north on my compass, that's going to be just great. And how do we do that? Again, we're going to take our compass. I'm going to turn the dial to north, so my direction of travel is on 365 degrees. Now I'm going to turn my compass, and you'll see my leash is getting in the way, my little necklace. You want to have that on your compass because you're going to be using your compass a lot. It's a lot easier if it's hanging off your neck so that you can just safely rest it as you're going between points, because you're going to want to keep checking it. Okay? Now we're going to turn the map as well, and we're going to line up those lines, those blue lines, on our compass so that red is in the shed and the straight line goes down the side of the compass. So now I know that this map is facing north, and I can tell where I need to go based on where the map is.